Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin. These men spoke up for what they thought was right. From their courage came such documents as the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. From their willingness to speak what was sometimes unpopular but right, we enjoy such liberties as freedom of speech, the right to keep and bear arms, and freedom of religion. There are those who still wish to oppress our freedoms, and there are still patriots willing to stand up and defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Men like Zeb Bell, who honor our founding fathers and what they stood for. It's now time for Zeb at the ranch, speaking up and defending your freedoms. Brought to you by Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers and all of the other great advertisers on the program. And now, Zeb Bell.
Excuse me, but take just a moment right now and be honest with yourself. Think about what we would still have if President Trump had won the election. Now think about what we've lost in just a month with Biden's bungling. It's really scary. Here comes Kate Smith and God Bless America, followed by a Patriot. Come on, Patriots. We do this for you. Call in. Good morning. Good morning. And a good morning to you. Zeb at the Ranch, I'm Zeb Bell, and welcome to our program for this morning, brought to you by our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations, all 7 of them, with the best of tires and service for you. Along with our friends at Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, helping you get back to being you. Right now, let's go to the phone line and have a Patriot with our Pledge of Allegiance. Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
My friend.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Amen to what you just said, and please call back in a little bit. Thanks, buddy. I appreciate you. Right now, we've got to go to the weather forecast, and the weather brought to you by K&R Rental at 256 South, 600 west of Hayburn. Good morning, Roger. Good morning. They're right there on the Burley-Paul Highway. You can't miss them. I mean, if you can miss them, you shouldn't be driving anyway. They've got all the best of tools and equipment, and believe me, you can tell by their front yard, they've got everything. So get ready for spring, which is only now 18 days away, and give them a call. They can help you with any kind of a project you've got to finish with the best of tools and equipment on long or short-term rental. K&R Rental, 678-3122. And right now, here's Gina with the forecast.
Another beautiful day and temperatures warming up. Here is a look at your weather forecast. We are expecting sunny skies for today. A slight breeze out of the east at about 8 miles an hour with a high of 51. Tonight, mostly clear with a low of 24. Tomorrow, sunshine and 50 by Thursday. Sunny skies, winds out of the north-northeast at about 5 miles an hour, looking at a high of 54 by Friday, 58, maybe 60 by Saturday. That's look at your weather for Zeb at the Ranch.
Oh, yeah, Shazam! I love that kind of a forecast. And, of course, brought to you this morning, as it is every morning when we begin our program, by the folks that really have all the equipment you need for any kind of a job. Oh, by the way, if you're not sure what you need, you know, if you're like me, I don't know that much about tools and equipment, well, they'll help you. They'll make sure you get what's right for the task. Don't forget, give them a call at 678-3122. K&R Rental on the Burley-Paul Highway. They're waiting to serve you. Right now, I also, caller, I'll be right there, I promise. I just want to make sure and tell everybody about our dear friends at Darrow's Cleaners. I'm going to get down to Burley tomorrow, and I'm going to stop in, and boy, I don't know if they're going to be happy to see me or not. I've got so many clothes to take in there at Darrow's Cleaners, 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. And when they they come back home, they look brand spanking new. These people are artists when it comes to taking care of your clothes. You paid a lot of money for them, so take care of them. Take them into Darrell's Cleaners, 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. They really know how to treat your clothes right so you get the longest of lives out of all your garments. Darrell's Cleaners in Burley, absolutely the best. And when you talk about the best, you've also got to put in the conversation our friends that have been in business serving you for 7 decades, and that's Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. Yep, 678-0459. All you have to do is just give them a call or stop in, and they could have whatever you need. I'm going to cough. Stand by. Excuse me. They could have whatever you need just waiting on the counter for you. All your heating, cooling, and electrical needs right there at Ramsey Heating and Electric. Open 7:30 to 5 Monday through Friday. And that number again, 678-0459. Ramsey Heating and Electric. Caller, appreciate your patience. Good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Zeb.
Yes, sir.
Yesterday in your second hour, I'd called in about a situation that we're faced with, and you asked me to reiterate on it this morning.
Yeah, quickly, what was that? Yeah, what was that?
That was about Social Security and the elderly.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. My wife and I have an income of less than $2,000 a month on Social Security. My wife very carefully covered every expense we had in January.
Mm-hmm.
And she came up with $2,600, which means I had to dip into a small savings account.
Right.
Now, we don't have any debt, no house payment, no car payment, or anything like that. How is the elderly going to make it if they put a $15 an hour minimum wage out there and we get nothing?
Well, you're not going to make it. And by the way, there's just a little bit of feedback there, Sean, if you would. Seniors right now are getting punched in the face, and all of this because they seem to be the not wanted generation. I am very concerned that there's going to be more of a rob Peter to pay Paul attitude with Social Security. I think there's going to be a diminishment of the funds that should be paid out to seniors. I think seniors are being put on the back burner and nobody turned the stove on. I could go on and on, but I am absolutely livid that seniors that worked hard all their lives and tried to put away, and now you're dipping into the savings just to meet your monthly obligations. I know exactly what you're talking about because Deanne and I are doing the same thing. And I'm just mad that we would even entertain thoughts of illegal aliens, illegal immigration coming into this country, that you know they're going to have to come up with the funds from someplace to feed them, house them, clothe them, take care of them, and I'll bet you any money, old Keith, my friend, that they're going to be looking at more diminishment of Social Security for helping illegal aliens.
They've even come out and said that.
Yep.
I don't know who it was that said it, but it was said. You know, they put out these little innuendos just to give us something to think about, and then they spring it on us.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, our senior citizens, if you don't have some kind of a savings account or a family that will help you out, you will not survive because you cannot afford to make a car payment and a house payment and all these things on less than $2,000 a month.
Now, and here's something else, Keith, and then I got to be fair and get everybody else on the air. This absolute idiocy, and that's what the left and the Democrats are. They're idiots. They should be committed, all of them, by saying that they're not going to have any more fossil fuels in a couple of years, and they're going to force and coerce everybody to buy electric vehicles. I don't know about you, But I guarantee you at my age, I am not going to take on the purchase of an electric car at $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 and have that expense added on to what I'm trying to pay every month on retirement money. I'm sick and tired of what's going on in this country, and I am going to blow smoke and create a big fire at this administration because they're absolutely stupid.
I just wish we could do more.
I do too. And believe me, your subject that you brought up this morning is one that I'm not going to let go, and I'm going to talk about much more often. The absolute insanity of saying to me, you and everybody else, oh, well, just go buy an electric car. Okay. And it takes about, an hour to maybe 2 hours to charge it. And if you go more than 250 miles, you might be stuck out in the desert down by Moab, Utah, someplace. Don't give me this garbage about electric cars. This is insanity.
Or you could have a gasoline car that you run out of gas and you don't have any money, and gas is $10 a gallon.
I'd still rather have the fossil fuels and be able to stop anytime I want to, not being forced to, and refill, stretch my legs, buy a bottle of soda, whatever the case might be. I am sick and tired of this arm twisting and forcing of the United States to go with less. Thank you very much for your call, my dear friend.
You're sure welcome.
I appreciate it.
Wonderful day.
Thank you, buddy. Caller number 2, I'll ask you for a little patience. I've got to get these words in. I want to remind everybody about Denny's Restaurant, 611 North Overland in Burley. Hello, Thomas. I've got to get a hold of Thomas today. Big things are brewing, and I want to talk to him. And they're also located at 291 Pole Line Road in Twin Falls. Oh, the menu. All the great food ideas. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, anytime, all the time. All the desserts. Oh, you better go in and just get ready to enjoy a great meal with your family, your friends, at Denny's Restaurant, 611 North Overland in Burley. It's true, the title is absolutely correct. America's Diner. Denny's Restaurant, serving you. Want to also give a great big shout out to some folks that have been on our program now for quite some time, and that's our friends at Dino Septic Service. They literally do the job that you and I, we don't want to do. And they've got the latest of equipment, the most modern of equipment to get the job done. Septic tank pumping and septic inspection, sewer and sink drain lines cleaned, water and sewer lines installed, backhoe services. These people are good. These people are smart. These people are right there helping you. Dino Septic Service. Give them a call, 436-6526 or 678-1638, and in Twin, 735-8281. Fast, fair, friendly service, Dino's Septic Service. Caller, thank you for your patience. Good morning. You're on the air.
Yes, good morning, Zeb. This horde of people that are pouring into our country are coming up here with the idea that they're going to retire as soon as they hit that border. They'll never have to work again the rest of their lives. Well, I watched Levin's program the other night on Sunday night, and DeSantis was on there, and I see a big change coming because I think we've got a team of Trump and DeSantis. DeSantis will probably make the president with the backing of Donald Trump. We are going to see a big change coming.
We've got to see a big change, but it can't wait too long. I mean, I do not want, and I don't care if people are offended by these things that I say. I'm going to tell it like it is. The open, porous borders are going to kill this United States of America. You can't keep putting people on the Titanic when the Titanic is sinking. It doesn't have any common sense whatsoever. And I'm absolutely opposed to anybody, I don't care what age bracket they're in, coming into this country illegally. Stop them. Put up the walls, put up the fences, take the National Guard down there, and stop this insanity.
Well, I think another problem we have is a lot of these industries want these low-income workers coming in where they can pay them $8 an hour rather than a technician coming in getting $15 an hour. They want the cheap labor.
Yeah. There's a lot of that going on, but it's just the idea that these people would have the absolute pugilistic attitude of, we're coming in, you can't stop us. We're going to take over and we're going to cross the border. You're going to pay us. You're going to take care of us, etc. I don't like being pushed into a corner and it's time to fight back and say, no, you're not coming in. That's tough.
Well, China owns the Biden administration. They've been paid off from China for many years, and until we get rid of them, we're going to have this lingering problem.
Oh, a festering problem, not a lingering problem, a festering problem.
Yep, I talked to a lot of people down at the store that I went to yesterday. Boy, some of these construction guys are really upset.
They should be. And, you know, it's going to take all of us to get upset and say to these politicians that wear the weird three-piece suits and the wingtip shoes, no, wait a minute, we're going to have our way. It's we the people, not you, the representative or the senator. I'm fed up with politics on a national level. They're nothing more than leeches.
Well, I would like to see a movement of all the veterans that have been in different countries trying to protect them, to come together to protect our country.
Yeah,
and I'd like to see that happen.
You know,
this organization wouldn't be owned by veterans only. It would be open to everybody.
Yeah.
And the veterans have families and friends, and I think that's one way of garnishing millions of votes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Tony, God bless you and Mary as always. I appreciate your very, very pensive thought on these issues. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Zeb.
God bless you, man. Caller, good morning. You're on the air. Go ahead.
Good morning, Zeb. Hey, going back to the electric car thing, I wanted to point out another big problem with electric cars is they have a tendency to just spontaneously catch fire.
Oh, yeah.
Those battery packs are extremely unstable.
Yeah, they'd be great on a Boy Scout hike because if your matches are wet, just let your car burn.
Yeah, seriously, though. Seriously? They're very dangerous.
I know they are. And the thing is, they're just not feasible. I don't know about you, Rodney, but when I go someplace, I don't want to have to keep looking at that meter that says, oh, your battery's getting lower and lower. That means you've got to take at least an hour or 2 hours to try to recharge it, if you can find a recharging station. I mean, this is insane. And not only that, but most charging stations are more expensive to recharge electric cars than it would be if you filled it up with gas.
Exactly. And another problem that I'd like to point out is the heavy metals that go into the battery pack. What's going to happen to them when they're no good? They're going to go to the landfill. And what's going to happen then is those heavy metals are going to leach into the water system. So you got a choice. You can either put a little bit of carbon in the air, which is absorbed by trees, helps the plants to grow and all that, or you can put all them heavy metals into our water supply and kill everyone off.
Yeah, you know, Rodney, I'm telling you, the left, they are a bunch of loons that absolutely have the IQ of a pile of buffalo dung. I am sick and tired of mamby-pambying these people. I don't like them. I don't want anything to do with them. They are stupid.
Oh, they need to be put in a padded room in a straitjacket.
Okay, buddy. Thank you for your call. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Catch you later.
You know, I said this on one other program, and naturally there are some that grabbed their hair and started bugging their eyes out and going, oh, he's one of those. He's one of those nationalists. You know, would you do me a favor this morning? Please pick up a dictionary, whether it's Webster's or Funk and Wagnall. Pick up a dictionary and go look up the explanation and the meaning of the word nationalist. And I'm going to say this, I am a nationalist. And for all the weirdos out there that belong to the Democratic Party or the liberals that absolutely, oh, he's a nationalist, he's a white supremacist and all, oh, give me a break. Go sit down in the corner and play with the dog's toys. A nationalist, yes, I am, according to the definitions. A nationalist is devoted to one's nation. Yes, I am. I am very devoted to this, the greatest country ever on the face of the earth, the United States of America. Yep, I'm a nationalist. Here's another one. Hold on, caller. It refers to patriotism. Yes, I believe in the red, white, and blue. I believe in God's blessing this great United States of America. Yep, patriotism, that's me. I believe that our country's interests are more important than international considerations. Yes, I believe that. Yes, I believe that America must take care of their own first and foremost. Yes, I believe a strong country, after they've taken care of their citizens, is much more able to help others with help and concerns. I guess I am a nationalist. And I am an advocate for national independence. Son of a gun. I guess I am a nationalist because I believe in all those things. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
I also believe in them. Because if we do not take care of America first, if we do not succeed in this venture we've been on, then how, if we fail, how can we help anybody else in the world?
Well, Doug, we can't.
Yeah.
But where do they get off? And again, just a little feedback there on the call, Sean. Thanks, buddy. Where do they get off, they being the left, in criticizing me and or anyone and saying, and they've done this with emails and calls, etc., oh, you're a white nationalist. Well, let's take a look here. Okay, I rolled my sleeve up right now. My goodness, Doug, there is white skin. That means I'm a Caucasian. Okay, check mark. Yes, I am. And I'm a nationalist that loves this country, so I'm a white nationalist. Where did the connotation of those words all of a sudden in the last 6, 8, 10 months become so negative?
Because they're wanting to tear this country down. They're wanting to divide us. They're wanting to tear so we can become a third world country so they can get their one world government.
Yeah.
That's their end game. And it is sad that there are people out there who believe this stuff, that they think, yes, we need to tear America down because America's never been good.
Yeah.
Well, you show me where America has not helped every country around this world when a national disaster hits.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And you show me every country who has come into America to help America when a national disaster hits.
I got to work on that one for a while.
I can't remember any.
I think our friends to the north in Canada have, on occasion, said, hey, we'll give you a helping hand. But as far as saying plural and plurality of nations jumping in with both feet up to their neck in water, I can't think of anybody.
I can't either. I can't. And we send a hospital ship around the world.
Yep.
Helping people. And it's from donations from Americans, and I'm sure people from other countries donate to it too. But it's got American doctors on it. It's got other doctors. But we help the world. Show me a war that we've gone into to free some people and took over the country and all of their assets for payment.
Yeah. But let's go back to the original content of what I was talking about. Where is it, Doug, and why is it that words all of a sudden in our United States are turned against citizens that are patriots? I am very proud to be an American. I absolutely think this is the greatest country ever on the face of the earth. And all of a sudden, with those phrases, I am looked at and demeaned by even some yokel locals in Twin Falls that think they're so smart and they write for the Times News, that I am a white nationalist and I need to be dealt with. What's wrong with being the color of my skin white, and what's wrong with being a nationalist where you love your country?
Well, one of those things you have control over.
Yeah.
How you believe in the nationalist, being proud of your country. The other one you had no control over.
Absolutely.
God was the one that allowed you to be born into the family you were born in.
But we have allowed people that think they are so smart, people that think they've got an IQ that is triple or double anybody else, and they've taken words, and they've changed the meaning so that all of a sudden being a nationalist is bad. And it is not. I am a nationalist, and I'll go down in flames if they want me to, because I'm not going to change my attitude. I love my country. I think it's the greatest on the face of the earth. I'm devoted to our nation, and I'm a patriot. So if they want to condemn and damn me for that, shoot your best shot.
You bet. And I think I'm a nationalist because I fly a flag outside my business every day.
Me too.
I fly a flag every day at my house.
Me too.
Does that make me a nationalist?
Yeah, these people are absolute. They believe they should be in a home, locked up in a 6x6 room, so they don't hurt themselves or somebody else.
Exactly. And it's sad. If they hate this country so bad, I read a deal yesterday, and it was really interesting. It says, if you hate this country so bad, it's like living in your parents' home that you hate. Move out and be happy.
Therein lies the problem, because they've developed a comfort zone of living off somebody else, and they can't do it on their own because they have no personal responsibility.
Exactly. And everybody, do the senior centers. Let's take care of them, and let's go eat there and leave with a full tummy and a full heart. But this saying is to you, Zeb.
Yeah.
Be who you are and say what you feel. Because those that mind don't matter, and those that matter don't mind.
Well, you know what? It's interesting that you should say that to me this morning, because I've been accused of saying too much and saying too much of my free speech and exercising my right of the First Amendment. But you know, the bottom line is, I ain't going to change.
And that is by Dr. Seuss.
There you go. And he's been banned in Virginia. This is the idiocy of what's going on in our country. I got to run. I got another call waiting, Doug. I got to run. Thanks. God bless you, man. Thanks. Caller number 2, you're on the air. I'm sorry to keep you waiting. Go ahead.
No, you're good. I have an honest question, and I really don't have an answer for it, but I've kind of grown up on the ranch fixing a lot of things, and I was curious, why do they not have some sort of alternator to recharge electric cars? I'm not for electric cars, don't misunderstand me. But wouldn't an alternator or two, help charge that battery so at least you wouldn't be walking
okay,
in
now,
the middle of Nevada?
Now, let me say this to you, and I think I know who this is, and I know you know me. And again, Sean, the feedback's a little high. I am not a mechanic. As a matter of fact, the only thing I know about automobiles and pickups is if I put the key in the ignition and turn it away from me, it should start. But your idea absolutely makes sense. But the nonsense of batteries that are absolutely not here yet today and won't be for a long time to come, whether it's in heavy transport trucks across the United States, whether it's in cars, or something else that we need to consider, if these imbeciles that want to do away with fossil fuels, where is the farming and agricultural industry going to have the ability with equipment to farm to feed us? Where's that going to come from?
Well, it's not. It's not even feasible. I can't feed cows at the feed yard with an electric motor. I just can't do it.
Yeah.
So I can't use the loader to load any commodities with an electric loader. It's not going to work.
Yeah, but on the other hand, let's talk about this. Let me ask you this question. If they're saying, well, you just charge your battery and go about your work, in a heavy equipment piece like that, a loader, if a car takes over an hour and a half to charge, under the current auspices of charging, how long would it take out of your workday to charge a great big loader?
Yeah, it wouldn't be feasible. So therefore, we're going to have, well, there's 2 of us running full-time feeding at the yard right now. We would have to have, I would bet you, at least twice as many loaders.
Yep.
Just to do the same 8 or 10 hour shift.
When you take people that have no common sense, and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is one of those, that has lived within the confines of cement buildings all of her life and does not have any appreciation for what the great outdoors is and what agriculture does for her and the rest of her life, you've got people that create problems, and that's why we're in the shape we're in today.
Well, these are the same people that put roses on steaks in the supermarket and walk around with signs in front of the milk case that has a picture of a calf on it.
Yeah.
It says, "I don't want to die so that you can have milk." The simple-mindedness is running rampant.
Amen. I appreciate your call this morning. You brought up some good points. Thank you so much.
You bet.
God bless you, man. Thanks. That made the sinuses clear up. Caller, I'll be right there. Stand by. Don't forget Barry Equipment and Rental Sales, Service, and Parts. And they've got three locations serving you. 159 West Highway 30 in Burley, 465 Addison Avenue West in Twin, and the Nampa location. I mean, they've got the big dudes that can get the job done for lifting and digging and pushing and carrying, the Doosan wheel loaders and the excavators, all the Bobcats, all the shapes and sizes. I mean, you got a job that has to get done. Hey, they can help with the grading, the leveling, the laying of the sod. They've got all the equipment. Barry Equipment and Rental. Great rental rates. You better stop in and check it out today. As I said, locations in Burley, Twin Falls, and Nampa. Barry Equipment and Rental. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Zeb. How are you doing today?
I'm good, my dear friend.
Well, I called in because I listened to this nationalist thing, and I guess I'm one of them too because I love this country. And, I wouldn't want to live where I didn't love my country. I wouldn't want to live where I didn't have respect for my fellow man.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't want to live where I didn't want the best for everybody around me. And this idea of bringing in people from other countries that have absolutely no love or care for this country other than what it can give them,
yeah,
to me, it's ridiculous.
The statement by
Hard time
Jerry
with something like that.
Jerry, let me just jump in here for a minute. The statement, and I know you're aware of it, the statement by John F. Kennedy when he was president, ask not what your country can do for you, but do what you can for your country. I'm paraphrasing. We've lost that attitude. And with all these people, like you just very succinctly said, waiting to come in and have a gimme, gimme, take attitude, I'm fed up with it. I don't want open borders. I do not want these people here. I do not want the financial burden it's going to impose.
Well, I think everybody's in that boat. And it's a terrible thing when everybody is not willing to stand up and say what they think. We need to let our Congress people know we're sick and tired of this crap that's going on. It needs to end, and it needs to end right now.
Amen.
Not next week, not next month. It needs to be done right now.
I could not agree more.
Not happening.
No, Jerry, you're a real patriot and a man that has served this country and served it well, and I have the utmost respect for you. Thank you so much for your call, and God's blessings to you. Thank you, Jerry.
You bet. You have a wonderful day, and may the Lord bless you and all of your audience.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you. Caller, good morning. You're on the air. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, it's just me again, Zeb. Going back to those electric cars, I would like to know how heat resistance those batteries are. You're stuck in traffic on a day when the temperature is 100 degrees. Are those batteries going to explode? And will your car have to be equipped with an ejection seat for you to get out?
Look over your head, and if you see a fat guy with crutches in a padded car seat flying overhead, be sure and call authorities to come pick me up, would you please?
It was just a thought. thought. I mean, that's one of my big concerns about batteries.
I don't want to, Tony, I don't know about you, and I think I know the answer, but I don't want to take on any expense of being forced and coerced with my arm twisted behind me in order that I am going to be able to take my wife to the doctor or maybe go to the grocery store or whatever. I'm going to have to be forced to buy an electric car. I don't want to buy an electric car. I do not want to take on any more costs at this point in my life. I don't want to have to sit and wait 2 hours to charge a vehicle and try to find the charging station. I am absolutely livid that we, the people of the United States, need to tell these politicians, hell no.
Well, I think one of the reasons is the communist government wants to confine people to their cities as much as possible.
Oh, I think that's right.
No range out of those electric cars.
Oh, I totally agree with you. I mean, it's a way to control the people, I think, that has never been available to government officials and their insidious means like never before. I agree with you. Tony, always appreciate your comments. Thank you so much.
Okay, buddy.
All right, buddy. Thank you. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning. You know, I'm going to bring up something that you're talking about, and that is the fact of those charging stations. Now, any nice day in Burley, Idaho, go try to wash your car. You will find a line of at least 7 or 8 cars. Now, if it's checking or one of those stations takes an hour to charge your car, and you're number 7 in line, guess what? You better not plan on anything else for that day.
You know, Keith, your point is a good point because we're assuming that you can find a charging station. We're assuming that it's going to be vacant. We're assuming that you can just drive up, plug it in, and in an hour and a half, you can drive away. Your point is so well taken, and I saw this in action. I mean, I've seen about 4 or 5 charging stations, and they were completely filled with vehicles, and there were others waiting. I do not have the time to sit around and twiddle my thumbs for 2, 3, 4 hours waiting to get my car charged again so I can go a maximum of 250 miles and then go through that hell one more time. I can't afford that.
Let me tell you one more thing that the left is looking at, and we are oblivious to it, and that is the fact that they're going to drive the price of gasoline up so high that electricity will be cheap.
But first of all, you have to ask yourself one question. Where is all of this excess electricity going to come from, Keith, when you have complemented a green energy program that doesn't fill the bill of creating more electricity for the grid?
You know, it's a terrible thing. I went through these gas crises before. And I remember one time when I was in Sacramento and I bought a car, and it was out of gas, and I had to drive it home. I had to find a gas station. Then I had to wait close to an hour before I could get any gas. And guess what? They will only allow you 5 gallons.
Yeah.
And I had to make it to Reno. You know, this is something we've had in the past, but it may come to fruition.
Yep. Keith, always appreciate your comments. You're a dear friend of this program. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Caller, before I do the weather, I'll take your call. Good morning. You're on the air. Go ahead.
Okay, real quick. I sent you an article about a year, maybe 2 years ago, about electric cars and what stress they put on the grid.
Yeah.
And if I'm remembering correctly, when you plug your electric car in, it is like 10 households.
Oh, stop right there. Stop right there. I remember the article, but the article, if I'm remembering correctly, was based basically on automobiles. Doug, My question right here would be, what in the world are we going to do if they force heavy transport trucks to charge an electric battery for their transport truck? What about the food? What about the refrigeration? What about the milk, the cheese, the eggs, everything that has to be shipped to the grocery store? How are you going to charge these big semis in a time that is worthwhile and going to be, let's say, useful to get the product to market on time?
Well, the only thing they're going to be able to do is they're going to have one trailer that carries just batteries.
Ah.
They'll have a big cable hooked up to the truck. You'll drive, but then you've got another trailer. Okay, so you got a 80,000-pound gross weight limit, and here you're sitting there with a truck and a trailer, and you're hitting, right now they hit, reefers will hit somewhere around 35,000, maybe 40.
Mm-hmm.
So you put a bunch of batteries in there, you're going to be hitting 70,000, so they'll be able to carry 10,000 pounds of payload.
And what are you going to do when you're down in Tucumcari, New Mexico, 62 miles outside that little burg, and your battery shows on the front computer screen, "I'm dead"? Your battery is no longer with you.
Well, that's when you call a wrecker with a diesel generator on it, and they come out and park beside you, plug it in, and let it run for about 8 hours and charge your battery.
No. Your battery burned up. How are you going to fly in a battery, and who's going to put it in the truck? These things are not little bitty diehards.
No, they're not. They're not like a car battery we see now. They weigh thousands of pounds. And I looked up when Sharon was on, and I think the Tesla weighs somewhere around 5,000 pounds.
Yes.
And that's what an old Cadillac Coupe de Ville used to weigh.
You know, when you start tearing this apart, which it needs to be torn apart, the incompetency, the idiocy, and the non-thought about electric vehicles and solar and wind power being the new grid electricity, it ain't gonna work, Dougie boy.
It's not. It's not gonna work. And have you ever seen pictures of those mines where they get the materials for these ion batteries?
Mm-hmm.
And see what they do to the world and what it does to the landscape? And all the water that comes from those deals for the big lake, and I mean nothing.
Where are the wacko environmentalists when these subjects are made public?
Oh, that's over in China. Don't worry about it.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
in China.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Okay.
Yeah, and not even a kosher weed would grow where these things are.
I don't know. When it comes to kosher weeds in my arena, I think they could grow anywhere.
They can grow on pavement and concrete.
Doug, I got to do the weather. I'm late. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it.
God bless.
All righty. Caller number 2, I'll be right there. And I want to remind everybody about Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. Oh, my goodness. They know all about your hearing health. They know that if you've got a problem, do not put it on the back burner. Take care of it. Hearing is very, very important, and they can customize treatment plans that will help you at Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids, right behind the Minidoka County Hospital, across from the emergency room. And the number to call, write this down, give them a call this morning, 312-0957, 312-0957. Please, for the betterment of your hearing health, call them today, Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. And right now, here's Gina with the weather.
Another beautiful day and temperatures warming up. Here is a look at your weather forecast. We are expecting sunny skies for today. Slight breeze out of the east at about 8 miles an hour with a high of 51. Tonight, mostly clear with a low of 24. Tomorrow, sunshine and 50 by Thursday. Sunny skies, winds out of the north-northeast at about 5 miles an hour, looking at a high of 54 by Friday, 58, maybe 60 by Saturday. That's Look at Your Weather for Zeb at the Ranch.
Oh, man, I mean, 60 degrees. Now, I got to tell you, down in Arizona, we saw most days between, honestly, the average probably was about 70 degrees. Hotter, got up to around 80 sometimes, and then it was a little lower. But, if it's going to get like that here this weekend, look out, I'm outside. Anyway, the weather brought to you by Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. I guarantee you they can customize a plan for your hearing health. Please get a hold of them and make an appointment today. 312-0957, Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. I forgot. Do I have another call waiting or not? Caller, you're on the air if you're there. If you're not, we'll wait for somebody.
No, there's nobody there.
Okay.
Not so rapid fire that I was surprised that,
I mean, you were unloading the bullets out of the gun as fast as you could punch the buttons, buddy. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. One thing I want to say, and I know this is going to cause a little bit of heartburn for some people, but I mean it. I'm serious about it. I am so absolutely adamant that girls' sports are going to be ruined because of Biden's silly, buffoonic attitude with this Equality Act of letting transgender men play on girls' teams and also share the locker rooms and the restrooms. Girls, listen to old Zeb for a second. It's going to be up to you to eliminate the problem. Now, I know a lot of you out there saying, what do you mean eliminate the problem? Let's just talk basketball for a little bit. You take 2 or 3 girls on either team that are sick and tired of the trans men, perhaps, that are going to be escalating their attitude towards trying to play on a girls' team. There is a simple way with a fouling situation, let's say, where maybe you can convince these transgender men that maybe they shouldn't be mingling or trying to test their abilities on a girls' team, if you get my drift. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning again. I got one thing to say, and that is bless this nation, because we sure do need it.
The only way we're going to get a blessing of this nation is a return to God and the principles of the Bible, of which this country has got away from, of which the Democratic Party has shunned. And now that we're looking at a Democrat in the White House and one that wants to follow him into the Oval Office, there seems to be a turning their back on God. And until we turn that attitude around, there's not going to be a blessing of this nation.
Let me tell you of a calamity that's going to be coming, and that is because of this COVID. I'd say in the last 10 months, people afraid that they're being cooped up. They can't travel. They can't do this and that and the other. And did you know that the RV sales were at a record high this last few months?
Yeah.
And the problem is, if you wanted one, you paid the premium price because of availability.
Yeah. But
this goes into all the recreation vehicles, like the side-by-sides.
Mm-hmm.
You try to get a side-by-side here a month ago, and it would be very hard to find.
People are fed up.
But here's what the thing is going to happen. Gas is going to go up to $4 or $5 a gallon, and these people are going to have these RVs and stuff like that they can't afford to drive or ride. And what are they going to do? Because they will probably owe more than it's worth, because there will be no market for them.
Yeah.
That's a calamity.
Well, it's not only a calamity, but it involves the entire automobile industry. How dare they get on the television or the radio right now and run ads for, hey, buy our pickup, boy, I'll tell you what, hey, buy our car, etc. Can you imagine, Keith, if a forced shutdown by the idiotic Democrats saying no more sale of fossil fuels, there won't be a trade-in value of these vehicles, whether it's diesel or gas. What are we going to do? Just leave them parked in our driveway and try to figure out how we're going to fund another electric vehicle? What are you going to do with them?
Well, what are we going to do when these major stations like Mr. Gas or Smith Food stop selling gas?
Yeah.
What are we going to do?
The incompetency and the mindless chatter that's going on with the Democrats that seem to be, and all of them seem to be, have lost their collective minds is absolute craziness. I got one more call, Keith. I've got to run. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Caller, quickly. I've got 1 minute left in the segment, and then I'm going to have to cut you off. Go ahead.
Okay, they talk about the trans men becoming women going in girls' lockers. You don't hear much about women transing to be a man. So what the girls need to do is go try it. Just don't even try out. Say, hey, I feel like a man, and so I should be put on your team, and I need to go in your boys' locker rooms and in your boys' bathrooms. And the entire girls' basketball, volleyball, whatever team needs to do it.
Yeah, I agree with you that there has to be a completely unified, no, we're not going to accept this garbage. No, we're not going to accept transgender men destroying girls' sports. Whatever has to be done because this country has got to get back to some kind of a moral value that we've lost. I think you'll agree with me on that.
Exactly. It's not fair to girls. They keep talking about equality. Where's the equality for the girls?
Amen. There isn't any. And boy, I'll tell you what, I'm glad my daughter is out of high school and college sports because with this idiocy and incompetency that's being thrust upon girls' sports with this Biden administration, I'd probably be in jail. Anyway, have a great day and thank you for your call. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Don't forget your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations serving you with absolutely the best in tires. They've got them all. I mean, they've got them all. All the different tread designs, all the different sizes for all the vehicles. And they all know, meaning the people that work there, they all have graduated from a course in tireology. They know exactly what's going to do the best for you. Along with that, the best in brake service and front-end alignment, shocks and struts and batteries. Oh, they've got the best in batteries. But service reigns supreme. They really take care of you. James and Buell, Dan on Poline in Twin Falls, Lane and Rupert, Mike and Jerome, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, the Twist family in Paul, and my buddy Trent on Overland in Burley. The best, your Magic Valley, Les Schwab Tire Centers. Got to run to the news. I'll be back in 7 minutes. Don't go away. Zeb at the Ranch. Oh, my goodness sakes, here we go. Hour number 2 of Zeb at the Ranch, and, of course, brought to you by our major sponsor, your Magic Valley, Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations serving you with the best of tires and service. And, of course, our great friends at Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, helping you get back to being you. Right now, ladies and gentlemen, this good word for Western Waste.
From the canyons of the Snake River and all across southern Idaho, we're all at your disposal. Western Waste Services, we care about our community, our resources, and this free land. Western Waste Services is lending a hand, always at your disposal. Western Waste Services.
We are 18 days away from the first day of spring, and if you're really getting into the idea of spring cleaning, maybe you need a dumpster. Well, they've got dumpsters in various sizes. All you have to do to get one is call Western Waste Services, 734-6969. Tell them you need a dumpster. They'll bring it over. You fill it up. They'll come and get it. Hey, I'm telling you, service supreme. Getting rid of your garbage. Western Waste Services, always at your disposal. Want to also give a great big shout out to, whoa, I just knocked everything off the table there. That's not good. No, there we go. Everything's now shipshape again. Want to give everybody a great big shout out about our friends over at Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation. I, along with my lovely bride, we're going to be over there tomorrow and looking forward to it. You know, these folks really, really know what they're doing at Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley. Nick Greenwell heads up all the physical therapists, and believe me, they know the job of helping you get back to being you. And they've also got the only one of its kind in the area, hydrotherapy pool. Oh my, get those muscles working. Call for an appointment today at 678-1191. That number again, 678-1191. Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation. You be sure and make that call right now. Well, another good note that I need to mention, and dear friends, and they've been with us, riding the horse with us on this program for a long time, and that's our friends over at Hanson Mortuary with Joel Heward, his family, and his staff serving you. You know, when there's the passing of a loved one, oh my goodness, what a traumatic time. We've all probably been through that, and you need somebody that really knows what needs to be done in an immediate situation. Hanson Mortuary, 710 6th Street in Rupert. Number to call, 436-5636. And, of course, they always provide the families they serve with the best possible support and comfort and upholding the highest ethical standards. So please get a hold of them today. Hanson Mortuary in Rupert, 436-5636. And Joel Heward also serving you and your family at Morrison Payne Funeral Home on East Main in Burley. Wow, it has been over a month since I've had a chance to visit with one of my dear friends on my radio program, and that is Mr. American Energy Alliance, Dan Kish. Good morning, Dan. How are you?
Good morning, Zeb. I'm missing you. The whole world's gone to hell in a handbasket.
And you know what? The handle broke off the basket, I'll tell you that.
Tell me about it.
Dan, I have never seen, and I was in Arizona for a month, I've never seen anything like this in my life, that in a month's time, the new administration could absolutely dig up and cover with dirt anything and everything that was good for the American public, whether it was energy that is going up on a fast track to higher costs, whether it was illegal immigration with illegal aliens coming across our border by thousands every day. I mean, everything is going down the old toilet bowl, and this all is happening in the first month of Biden's bungling.
Yeah, I've never seen anything like it either, Zeb, and I've been at this a long time. It's stunning. I mean, the sorts of things that they've been able to accomplish, and I compare it. I mean, every time President Trump tried to reverse something, it was in court, and it was held up, and it was this and that. There doesn't seem to be the same approach when it comes to this. So, despite putting a lot of judges on the bench, it's pretty clear that there's a bunch of them who, sort of turn their nose up. But we'll see. I mean, we're seeing the impact already. Gas prices are way up and headed higher. But they haven't even begun. I mean, the plans on energy that they have, frankly, are just stunning and not workable. They're not going to work. So we'll see what happens. Unfortunately, people are going to have to suffer in the meantime.
Well, you know, here's the thing, Dan, and you are one of my closest friends on the radio with your expertise talking about energy. But let's take the community that I was staying at during the month of February. They rely heavily, it's their main source of annual income, if you will, on tourists and a certain segment of our society, quite frankly, the ropers, of which there are thousands and thousands and thousands that go to this area every year from December all the way to the 1st of April, and they depend on the money that's spent to keep their city and their communities afloat. And with higher diesel and higher fuel rates, it's going to cut back and really diminish communities and cities as far as what's in the coffers. I can see that they are leading us right up to a economical breakdown in this country because of the idiocy and incompetency of catering to the greens and green energy.
Well, Zeb, I tell you, I don't think the elites, if you will, who live in urban areas, who don't have to travel distances or use horsepower in order to do what it is that they do, at least that they can see, fully appreciate the impact of higher energy prices on the overall economy. I mean, if it hadn't been for hydraulic fracturing on private lands, President Obama would not have been reelected in 2012, and it was largely as a consequence of, despite him trying to stop fracturing and horizontal drilling, but the increase in production of natural gas and oil that dropped prices that led to a better economy, again, despite the government's own actions. And so when you combine that with just the overall sluggishness that happens when you pour higher cost energy on everything that humans do, it will make life poorer for people across the board, and they will feel that. Some of them will get rich because they're cashing in on whatever the new pet rock is, but ultimately society as a whole and our country as a whole will get poorer. And all this is happening against the backdrop of China using more and more energy. They're going to surpass the United States for the first time in world history as the number one refiner in the world in terms of capacity this year. They already burn 5 times as much coal as we do, and President Biden has committed us to go back into the Paris Accords, which ties our hands behind our backs and one of our legs as well, and lets them go full throttle.
Dan, of all the programs that we've done together, the segments, you have been very emphatic and you've laid it out in a very succinct manner as to the incompetency of thinking, let's talk about electric cars like we were the last hour on my program. I have right in front of me a story that was written by a auto dealer by the name of Jeffrey Pohanka. And he laid it out very, very interestingly about the absolute costs of electric cars costing more to recharge than it would be to fill it with gas, and also the time spent just sitting around doing nothing, waiting for your car to charge, if you can get into a charging station and not have to wait in line. And it went to I don't know how many days out of a person's life on a per year basis where you're going to be doing nothing but sitting around waiting for your car to charge. This is insanity.
Well, which makes you wonder if that's their goal, Zeb. I don't think it is electrification of cars because they realize, I think they know that the challenges there are enormous. And so what it really is about is driving up the cost of personal, individual transportation. The people in the cities can take the subways and the buses and the rest of the
That's
things
right.
because they're all jammed on top of one another.
Yep.
And the rest of the country can take the hind quarter, basically. That's what it's all about. So it's trying to pretend everybody lives in a city like New York or Salt Lake City or you name it. And that's what they're driving for. They're driving to create the problems, and then they'll have the solutions. Well, we need more mass transit. We need more of this. We need more high-speed rail like California. You know, we need these sorts of things. And it's all of these things will be ultimately funded by taxpayers, controlled by the government, which means your personal transportation will be controlled by the government. And as crazy as that sounds, I'm convinced that's why they're doing what it is they're doing. They're not telling us the truth about what their real goals are. You have to sift through the tea leaves and figure out what's behind it. And it's really about controlling people's behavior. That's what it's about. It's about breaking our will, as the climate director in state of Massachusetts said, and lost his job for saying that, made it public. That's the sort of thing that's going on. Yeah, I've seen Jeffrey Pahanka's piece on this, and Pahanka is a big name back here in the Washington, D.C. area for car dealerships.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he's smart enough to look at this and say, wait a minute, they're basically trying to ban the car by saying they want to go to electricity.
I don't understand what's going to happen in the next 5 years with the AOCs and the idiocy and incompetency of demented Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, etc., in their stand saying that everybody's going to have to switch over to electric cars. We're going to get rid of fossil fuels and all those vehicles. What about me? I have a relatively new diesel pickup. Now, the trade-in value is going to be minimal at best on a vehicle to trade for an electric vehicle. We're going to be looking at people losing so many thousands upon thousands of dollars on their existing vehicle, being forced and coerced to go electric cars. The American public can't absorb that kind of a sticker shock.
They know that. They don't want. They don't want you to be able to absorb the cost. That's why they're driving the cost up. The whole idea is that personal transportation is they'd like to know where you are. They'd like to keep an eye on you. It's a matter of liberty, of freedom, and they see personal transportation and the ability to do that and afford to be able to go where you want, when you want, without having to set up an appointment or make special consideration or line up or whatever it is they have planned. That's what's behind this. And all of this stuff is just cover for, we'll have all green cars and all things will be great. And of course, in order for any of this to work, it's all reliant upon China, too. Yeah. They're just rubbing their hands together and saying, come on, while they build the largest refining capacity in the world and surpass the United States for the first time since 1857, in doing that, they will also be supplying the minerals and the products that go into, and the batteries and you name it, that go into these electric cars that we're supposed to drive. And this is our government doing this to us because people say, I like the idea that the earth will be cleaner, despite the fact that the earth is cleaner now, the United States is cleaner now than it probably ever has been.
But it won't be cleaner. You very eloquently on past programs have stated that with all these batteries and all these minerals and everything else that go into these batteries, I mean, we're going to be talking about a storage problem for these old, dead, died, burned out batteries. What are we going to do with them? And that's not going to be better for the environment.
They'll just add that to the cost of that personal transportation, Zeb. Again, I mean, the goal is not, the goal ultimately is there are a bunch of masterminds who think they're smarter than everybody else, who believe that it would be better if we kind of all did what they want us to do. And then all would be life, all would be heaven on earth. That's kind of where they come from. And unfortunately, there are enormous numbers of Americans who sit there and gobble this stuff up believing this without knowing anything about physics or chemistry or any of the foundational aspects of what makes their very, very comfortable lives so comfortable. And they therefore vote with their emotions rather than their minds.
Are we that dumb? And boy, that's a loaded question. Are we that dumb as a society that we can't understand that the electric grid that is absolutely a necessity for this United States of America is going to falter and fall apart with green energy, wind and solar? And when you add on the massive amounts of electricity it's going to take to try to charge, whether it's cars or transportation vehicles, etc., it just ain't going to happen, Dan.
And I think they know that, Zeb. I think they know that. They're not sharing that with people, but I think they know that. In other words, if there's we achieved energy independence in this country, something we wanted to do since 1957 when we first began to become dependent on other nations for our energy. We finally achieved that, and they're throwing all of that out and going towards dependency on something else. It's like they're trying to create problems so that they can offer solutions. And they being the politicians and the people that prop them up, these big corporations that ultimately are more interested in their bottom lines and don't care if they're employing people in China or in the United States. And we had a brief reprieve from that, but the long march continues.
But we have a caller with a question, and I'm almost out of time, and I got so many more questions for you. Caller, good morning. You're on the air. Quickly, go.
I don't get my power from a grid. I just plug it into the wall. I get my milk from the store. There's that concept. I know you're busy. I appreciate it.
No, the lady is really right. I mean, the misconception and the absolute clear-cut stupidity of the general public that lives within the confines of a city, whether it's New York, Chicago, whatever, they don't have a clue. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and people of her ilk don't have a clue, and yet they're dictating to us. It is time for a massive revolution in this country to get back to the basics. Would you concede that fact, please?
I would concede that, Zeb. That's why I keep saying that ultimately this has to be started at local levels. I mean, it's our kids. It's what they're learning. It's what they're being taught. It has to be grabbed back by people with common sense instead of allowing this to just continue down the road. We've been happy that they came home with A's, but we didn't know what it was that got them the A.
Yeah, but where are these people? I mean, you and I are sitting here and we both share the same opinion, and we're ready to fight and really lead the charge against the incompetency and idiocy of this green movement. But where's everybody else? Why aren't we en masse mad as hell and doing something about it?
Well, I think the increase in gas prices and fuel prices in general will get people's attention. Typically what happens is that people, when they're comfortable, when things are okay, when they're getting by, when they're feeling all right, they don't get upset. And then all of a sudden, when the consequences of ignoring something become evident, and that becomes the chief problem they're looking at, they begin to rise up or complain or say, hey, what's going on here, and pay a little more attention. That's part of the problem. Life is very comfortable for a lot of people, and that lulls them into complacency.
You know, it goes too fast, my friend. I wished I had more time to pick your brain and get all the different knowledge that you have about energy on this show, but we've got another week next week on Tuesday. Dan Kish with the American Energy Alliance. It's so good to hear your voice again, my friend. Take care.
It's good to hear yours, Ed. Thank you very much.
God bless you, man. Thank you. I just really, he's just one of the many, many great people on my program that I just absolutely cherish, and I appreciate that. Thank you. Want to remind you about Denny's Restaurant, America's Diner. Yes, 611 North Overland in Burley. Oh, I urge you to stop in and pick up the menu and pick out all the delicious choices. I mean, the menu is phenomenal for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and all the desserts, and I'm going to tell you that you're not going to leave there hungry. Oh, they'll take care of you, and really nice people serving you, too, at Denny's Restaurant, 611 North Overland in Burley. You know, Thomas and his staff have really taken on the charge of making sure that you enjoy your experience of eating all the great choices at Denny's Restaurant. Stop in and see them today. Denny's Restaurant, America's Diner. You know, I want to take just a moment. As I stated yesterday, I used to try to play the guitar. I was never very good. But, oh my, I'm contemplating trying it all over again with the lessons that I could receive from Marcus Meeks. This man is a guitar guru, and he's located at 1459 Conant Avenue in Burley. And he retired for a while because he took on more of a family situation, and kudos to him for what he did. But now he's back, and he wants you to know that he is teaching guitar, all styles of guitar, Monday through Thursday, 2 p.m. to 6 p.m., and even before school for some of the high school students. Don't forget Marcus Meeks and his guitar extremely great teaching ability. Let me tell you, this guy is good, and I urge you to email him or call. You can call 312-9093 or marcusmguitar112@gmail.com. Believe me, if you want to play the guitar and learn from the best, contact Marcus Meeks and get guitar lessons from him. This guy is really, really good. Don't put it off. I wonder whatever happened to that guitar I had back home in Wisconsin. Might be still up in the attic for all I know. Calls are welcome and appreciated. In just a moment, we're going to go with my dear friend Gregory Wrightstone. Stand by for that. And I also want to tell you about our friends at Cameron and Siemens Insurance. Hello, Todd, and the great folks over there at Cameron and Siemens. You know, they really care, and it's so easy to let them serve you. What do? Well, I'll tell you what. You just give them a call and let them serve you with the best of life insurance and health insurance, retirement planning, employee benefits. They are dedicated and responsive to your needs. All you need to do is just pick up the phone and call 436-4424. That number again, 436-4424. Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. Don't put it off. You do it today. Call Cameron and Siemens Insurance in Rupert. All right, that leads me right up to my next guest, and wow, I really appreciate this man because he knows what he's talking about. Wrote a great book that I've worn the book out. I mean, it's dog-eared and all highlighted and everything. Dog-eared book called Inconvenient Facts, written by Gregory Wrightstone. Gregory, my dear friend, good morning. How are you?
Oh, real
really good, Zeb, and I have to apologize. The last time we were to get together, I had to stand you up, so I'll make up for it today.
Not a problem. I know you're extremely busy and sought after for your opinions. Greg, let me ask you this first and foremost so I don't forget later on. Now, Inconvenient Facts, outstanding book, but didn't you tell me about maybe 2 months ago you had another book ready to come out?
Well, yeah, best laid plans of, what do they say, mice and men. I'm about 2/3 of the way into my second book, and I've taken on a new position here in Arlington, Virginia, with the CO2 Coalition as executive director, and it's just I'm just so busy and overwhelmed with doing this, leading this organization, and it's a great challenge for me. We've got 60 of some of the top climate scientists in the world are part of the CO2 Coalition. We have atmospheric physicists like Richard Lindzen and Will Happer that are well-renowned, climatologists like Patrick Michaels. I'm a geologist. We have engineers and energy experts. And so my challenge right now is getting the word out and communications. And we do the science really well, but we're going to step up with communications. You're part of the solution here. So thank you for having me on to talk and provide this. What you and I both call the inconvenient facts of climate change.
Okay, but why are you putting forth such a great effort to provide information for the future? Because, gee, Greg, John Kerry said we've only got 9 years left anyway, and of course John is God, you know.
Well, if it is, it's a small G. But they've been saying this for 40 years now. And one of the things I like to point to, and people really get this when I explain it to them, is back in 2005, the United Nations issued a report and a prediction. This is 2005, mind you, that by 2010 there would be 50 million climate refugees, and they mainly from rising sea levels, and they identified the most at-risk islands and the most at-risk nations. And of course, 2010 came and went, and there weren't any climate refugees. In fact, I look at the population of those islands to show that they had actually grown quite a bit. So people were flocking to these at-risk islands instead of fleeing from them. And then in 2010, the UN issued the exact same prediction, 50 million climate refugees by 2020. Well, 2020 has now come and gone, and we don't find any climate refugees. And what's fascinating, Zeb, and I know you'll get this, and so will your listeners, one of those at-risk island nations was the Maldives, and it was one of the top 3, I think, of the most at-risk. It was going to be gone, underwater. Well, they're actually growing, by the way, but my point is they're currently building 3 new large resort hotel complexes seaside on the Maldives. Well, there are equity companies putting up tens of millions of dollars, and there are insurance companies that are insuring against any future catastrophe. And you know that insurance companies are probably the most risk-averse of any companies out there, and they certainly wouldn't be issuing the tens or even probably $100 million of insurance backing this if they had any suspicion the rising sea levels would endanger these hotel complexes.
Absolutely. Let me ask you this, and Greg, I am not trying to be facetious and I'm not trying to act naive, but I'm just going to ask you a very simplified question. Show me climate change. And when I say that, show me climate change, show me why I should be so scared. Show me why I should follow John Kerry over a cliff. Show me why I should absolutely go, I got to have green energy, wind and solar. Show me, where is the climate change that is showing me that I absolutely am going to die in 9 years?
Well, there is climate change. The climate is changing, but I think what you're asking, what are the horrific consequences of the ongoing climate change?
Absolutely,
right?
absolutely.
That's what we're being told.
Yep.
But if you look and that's my last section of my book, I'm looking at what's actually happening. And if we look what's actually happening, we see an Earth and its ecosystems that are thriving and prospering. The Earth is benefiting, and humanity and the human condition is improving because of modest warming and increasing CO2. So, yeah, it is changing. We are in a warming trend. It's been warming for more than 300 years in fits and starts, but we're in a warming trend. But we're not seeing those negative consequences. And Zeb, we're being told, aren't we, that, oh, my God, we can't let it get 1.5 degrees or 2 degrees warmer, or we're going to have famine and pestilence, and we're all going to die. We've talked about this before, is what I do, and that's part of my second book. I'm really exploring in detail the strong relationship between the rise and fall of temperature and the rise and fall of civilizations, and find that each of the past warming periods, there were 3 of them, dating back to the first great civilizations 5,000-6,000 years ago. Each of those warming periods were associated with hugely beneficial impacts on ecosystems and humanity. Great empires rose up. Great civilizations were plentiful and prosperous, and food was bountiful during those warm periods, that they're warning us, just like they're saying, oh my God, we can't let it get 2 degrees warmer. And we find back throughout human history, another 2 degrees of warming turned out to be very beneficial. It's the cold periods that were intervening when it started getting cold. Well, for example, the first great civilizations rose up, maybe 6,000 or so years ago. The Assyrians, the Hittites, the Babylonians, the first great Chinese empires and civilizations, and then the Harappan in India. These great civilizations and empires rose up. It was called the Bronze Age, and when it started getting cold, which led into what was called the Greek Dark Ages, each one of those great civilizations that's thought maybe is short of a period of 100 years, each one of these great civilizations collapsed. It was called the Late Bronze Age collapse all over the world, and it was all probably related to cooling temperatures, and probably crop failure and famine that went along with it. So again, that's just opposite of what we're being told.
Well, let me ask you this, Greg, and I want to tie this in because I was in Arizona for the last month. I took a month off, and I had a chance to be with many Texans, and one that was a former superintendent of schools down in Texas said, if this is what the Biden administration wants us to have as far as much cooler temperatures to combat climate change, they can have what's happened to Texas the first 2 weeks of February.
Yeah. Well, this wasn't the first very cold snap that's hit Texas. And in fact, I was just reading there's a whole series of these. But the good news is they're actually, if you look at these really cold snaps that come through that have hit Texas before, they're actually decreasing in number.
That's right.
Due to global warming. It's due to climate change.
Yep.
And I'm okay with that. That we have fewer of these events. But it wasn't funny how they were trying to spin this as a failure of natural gas and coal, when in fact it was the wind energy in Texas. The week before the big cold event, wind was supplying as much as 42% of electricity needs to Texas. The cold hit, and during the worst of that, in a day and a half or 2 days, it went down well below 5%.
Yep.
So any energy source you have that goes from 42% to less than 5%, that's going to cause a problem. Granted, natural gas and coal-fired did not have enough adequate supply to meet that challenge between the extreme cold and the lack of wind. So maybe the answer there is that maybe we should not move away from more natural gas and coal, but the problem in Texas surely looks to me like they didn't have enough conventional fossil fuel deliveries. Because, again, when I talk and look at electricity and energy supplies, I use 3 words: reliable, abundant, and affordable. And those 3 descriptors can only be used for the fossil fuel-fired electricity from natural gas and coal. Nuclear's reliable and abundant, but it's certainly not affordable with the high upfront costs of construction. And none of those 3 words of reliable, abundant, and affordable can be used in the same sentence with wind or solar, because they just aren't.
I want to ask you this. I want to go back into John Kerry, better known as Lurch from the Addams Family. But I want to ask you about how a person like John Kerry, number one, married into the Heinz Ketchup family, a multi-millionaire, and has absolutely no knowledge about climate change or anything to do with green energy, etc. But where does he come out with the idea that he can stand in front of the TV cameras and say, well, if we don't act in decisive manners right now, we've only got 9 years left? Where do these people come out with the attitude, and going back again to what I said earlier, of playing God?
Well, not only that, John Kerry had the audacity and the arrogance, if you'll permit me to criticize him that harshly, but he went and accepted a climate change award. I think it was in Stockholm or someplace, and he flew there on his own private jet, and he was criticized for that because of his big carbon footprint. And he said, well, basically he was such an important person, and he worked his whole life. He dedicates himself to solving the climate change problem, and because of that, he needs to be able to use these forms of transportation. And you know what? I don't criticize him for his big carbon footprint, because you know I'm a big fan of carbon dioxide. And, in fact, Zeb, I just got another box of T-shirts in of my I Heart CO2 T-shirts, and I'm almost out of my I Heart CO2 bumper stickers. But so I'm a big proponent. The CO2 Coalition is a huge proponent. Their philosophy and mine are one and the same. And we celebrate the many benefits of increasing carbon dioxide. Again, it's just opposite of what we're being told. We're being told that it's a poisonous, it's a dangerous gas, and it's leading to catastrophic warming that will lead to all these, what I call the climate apocalypse events. And as you know, I capture in my book Inconvenient Facts that we're actually not experiencing those. The ones that we're being told about just aren't. It ain't happening.
Let me ask you about what you know about former Michigan Governor Jennifer Granholm being appointed to lead the Department of Energy. What limited knowledge I have of this woman, I am very worried, very concerned about her addressing the so-called climate crisis and what she might try to do to the rest of the American public. What are your thoughts?
Well, yeah, she had a troubled past in Michigan. She was a radical, pro-carbon tax supporter. She's just one of this lineup of characters that Joe Biden has brought in, all of them wanting to advance the radical notions that they have of an Earth that's pending doom in 10 or 12 or 15 years. Take your pick. And she's just one. I mean, every single one of this member of the administration, whether it's in the transportation with Pete Buttigieg or Deb Haaland, who was just picked for Interior, that's a troubling pick right there. She's a Native American of the Laguna Pueblo tribe from New Mexico. She's advocated in the past for returning American lands to the Native Americans. But if you look in a little bit farther, Deb Haaland, once the land is returned to the Native Americans, that she doesn't want them using the land for economic benefit. No casinos, no mining, no natural gas or oil exploration. I guess it's okay if you pitch a tent and you do a dance or whatever, but you can't do anything that's going to harm the land or may have economic benefit. We just go down that whole list from the new Biden administration to find people, all of them wanting to advance economically crippling carbon tax.
Yeah,
and that's going to lead to significant increases. When you increase energy, that increases costs across the board for all goods and services. And it's a troubling. We can look at Texas, what happened, the economic benefit or horrific consequences there. it's only going to get worse. And the more we concentrate and rely on wind and solar, they're reliably unreliable. It's just going to get worse and worse for us here.
You know, Greg, I don't mean to paint you in a corner on this, but what can the American public do, or what should we have already done? I mean, here we were less than 40 days ago. We were energy independent. We had all things looking up, all things looking bright. And then, of course, Biden took over and changed and transitioned everything into a negative fashion. What should or could the American public be doing right now? Is there any way we can fight back?
Well, that's what I'm trying to do, Zeb. And here at the CO2 Coalition, I look at us as the tip of the spear when it comes to science. We try and stay away from the politics, so that's hard to do because everything's politically driven. And I want to get this message out. Anything your listeners, if they want to do something, we are underfunded at the If you can go to co2coalition.org, we're mounting a campaign right now. I need to hire some more people. We're one of the top scientific providers of this. There are other groups out there, but people look to us for the science. And I need to get that word out there, just like I come on your show and talk about it regularly. Thank you very much. We need to get this out to the mainstream of the people. And I find as I talk to just random people, people are just thirsty for this information that we talk about, and I've never heard it. In fact, I just got a new Android phone because I won't buy an iPhone because I hate Apple. But my new Android, the three guys that helped me there, they all had man buns and they were all tattooed up. And but I started talking to them, and they were like, "Really?" And they were just fascinated. And I ended up giving them each a book. And I find that no matter where I go, people are just, again, thirsty for this information. I think the great majority of people have this natural skepticism built in that there's something in the back of their head that's going, man, John Kerry, I think he's lying to me, but they don't have the information. And that's what I want to do is again, communicate the scientific facts that contradict this notion of man-made catastrophic warming.
Let me ask you this final question, though, Greg. I know that in past programs we talked about getting into the schools and getting our education system to be more acceptable to the idea that green is not correct and it's not going to be the panacea or the catch-all or cure-all. How do we get into the schools to change the attitude?
Yeah, we're discussing that right now at the coalition. We're right in the middle of that. I'm forming a committee of some of our members. We were looking around. I was contacted by a librarian from a K through 5 school in Oregon who was looking for a book that provided the other view on climate change, our view, and he couldn't find anything, and neither could I. So we're just in the beginning phases. We want to put this information together that maybe a 3rd or 4th or 5th grade reading level to provide these information, maybe some experiments that they can do for themselves. But we're going to take that on as a task this year. So I've got a lot of things planned for the CO2 Coalition, and I'm sure this won't be the last time I'm on with you. And you can help me explore as we go what we're doing. But I think that this outreach to the schools are hugely important.
Absolutely. Mr. Gregory Wrightstone, and I consider him a real treasure to have on this program, and his book, of course, Inconvenient Facts, and he is one of the head men with the CO2coalition.org. Greg, God bless you, man, and you're welcome back anytime. Thank you so much for sharing with us this morning.
Thank you. Thank you, Zeb.
All right, take care. Always learn something when he's on the air. Appreciate that. Now, I also know that looking at the clock, I better learn to watch my time a little bit better and say, by the way, Sean, are we getting a little fuzz on the air this morning? I'm starting to hear funny things on the headsets. Everything okay over there?
Seems fine to me.
Oh, okay. Well, then I must have a little zzz like this in my headset. Time for the weather forecast, brought to you by Phillips Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company. The professionals when it comes to accounting services to the Mini-Cassia area and beyond for over 50 years. You know, I'll bet you they are burning the midnight oil right now. Here we are only a month or so away from tax time. They are busy because they are the best with tax return preparation, tax planning, business consulting, financial statement preparation, retirement planning, all of this and so much more for you, your family, and your business. Don't forget the professionals with offices in Burley and Rupert, Phillips Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company. And right now, here's Gina with the forecast.
Another beautiful day and temperatures warming up. Here is a look at your weather forecast. We are expecting sunny skies for today. A slight breeze out of the east at about 8 miles an hour with a high of 51. Tonight, mostly clear with a low of 24. Tomorrow, sunshine and 50 by Thursday. Sunny skies, winds out of the north-northeast at about 5 miles an hour, looking at a high of 54 by Friday, 58, maybe 60 by Saturday. That's look at your weather for Zeb at the Rams.
Thank you, Gina, and brought to you by Phillips Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company. And I know these folks, and I'll tell you what, they are busy at this time of the year serving you. Absolutely. Offices at 625th Street in Rupert and 1710 Overland Avenue in Burley. Don't forget, accounting services, the professionals for the Mini-Cassia area, Phillips Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company. You get a hold of them today. I've got a note here I've got to get back on. Doreen McMurray. Let me get my note. It's time to think about planting trees and shrubs, and for the best information, please contact Doreen McMurray, and she's with, of course, the Cassia and Minidoka Soil and Water Conservation District, and they're having their seedling tree sale, and for information on getting shrubs and trees, this is a nice lady. Give her a call at 312-5556. That number again, 312-5556. There you go. Another note, too, that I want to remind you of, and that's our friends that know everything about electronics. I wished I had a tenth of their knowledge and ability. You know, I've always adhered to it that if you can't saddle it or rope it, what good is it? But I'll tell you what, I've learned they've got everything in their store, home theater systems and all the video surveillance cameras and the car stereos and speakers and the complete sound systems. Oh, my. A little bit of knowledge and you can really enjoy much more of your life and add this to your home. And all the TVs from Samsung, Sony, Toshiba, LG TVs, and they even have dehydrated food in stock now over at Patterson's Electronics. My goodness, they're open Monday through Saturday 9 to 6 and they're closed on Sundays, and they're located at 421 East Main in Burley. The number to call, 678-6997. Don't forget, Patterson's Electronics, they can help you. Boy, they're sharp. I'm telling you, any question you've got about electronics, zip, zap, zoop, they've got it for you. I promise you that. What have we got coming up for the rest of the day? Well, we have coming up next hour, and he should be walking through the door any moment, and that's Dr. History. Holy smokes, I haven't had a chance to talk to him for a month. And after Dr. History, at 10:30 this morning, we're going to have the Idaho legislative update. I have been told that Speaker of the House, Representative Scott Bedke, will be coming on the program, and we'll be talking about where we're at with the 66th Idaho legislative session, how much more to go, what issues are really prominent and prevalent that they have to still address. So all that's coming up in the next hour. Dr. History and the legislative update. Don't miss a minute of it. Tomorrow, real quick, I want to tell you that we have on Wednesday Dave Bigo and Larry Clayman is going to be on the air. We're starting a brand new segment with Pastor Alex Lissau called Why Not God? And that's going to be at 10:06. And then one of my favorite people, Gary Goldman from Massachusetts, will be on the air at 10:30. All of that tomorrow. Right now, let's go to the news, and we'll be back in 7 minutes. Boy, I tell you what, when Dr. History and I are visiting, all bets are off if I'm going to hear the cues. Good morning, everybody. Zeb at the Ranch. And, of course, brought to you by our major sponsor, your Magic Valley, Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you with the best in tires and service, along with our friends at Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, helping you get back to being you. One quick word. I want to remind everybody about our friend, hello, Jeff, over at Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More. You know, they have had the outstanding flooring event, you know, that just was during the month of January for not only the carpet, but also the luxury vinyl for your floors. And you know, of course, they get new shipments of furniture in every day. They've got all your window coverings. They've got everything in there. I urge you, for the beautification and the comfortization of your home, to stop in at Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More. I mean, dining room sets and all the recliners and the sofas and the sectionals, and people that really know what they're talking about. So you stop in and see them today at 459 Overland in Burley. Yep, the name of the place. You stop in, tell them I said howdy. Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More. Right now, we had to reintroduce ourselves, and for security reasons, we had to take a picture of his driver's license to make sure it was him. Good morning, Dr. History. How are you?
Good morning, Zeb. Good to be back. Good to be back out here.
I'm glad to be back, but I got to tell you, it was hard to leave those 70 plus and 80 degrees temperatures.
Yeah, I know, but I felt sorry for you.
Listen, good reports. I was talking to a lady down in the Wickenburg area that has known us for a long time, listens faithfully every Tuesday on the internet to Dr. History.
Well, good.
Yeah.
Good. It's.
She said, "Is he a big guy?" And I said, "Oh yeah, he stands about 6'7" and weighs about 246, something like that."
Now, did you tell him the truth?
Yeah, I said he's just a midget.
I'm not very big, but I'm quick.
Oh yeah, it's like me. I really amaze people as to how slow I really am.
Okay, Zeb, you're going to know this guy.
Oh, really?
Yes, you're going to know him. So here's the picture.
Oh.
Okay? The chase was on.
The chase was on.
Bill Pickett gave the steer a head start before kicking his spurs into his horse's flank. Then it was fair game as he and his horse chased this beast around the rodeo's arena. As soon as Pickett came alongside the steer, he jumped off his horse, catapulted through the air. As he somersaulted over the length of the steer's back, he grabbed its horns with his hands, mustered every ounce of strength he had to hold on. Next, he dug his heels into the ground, twisted the horn so hard that the animal's head jerked toward him. Pickett's face was now directly in front of the steer's nose. A bewildered audience watched in disbelief as Bill Pickett sunk his teeth into the snotty upper lip of the bull.
You had to put all the words in, didn't you?
I'm not leaving anything out. He bit down hard on that steer's sensitive upper lip, holding it in a vice-like grip, while at the same time throwing his arms in the air.
There you go.
I've got a picture of that, Zeb.
Yep. I bet you it's the same one I've got in my books upstairs in the attic. He's trying to find the picture to show me for those of you at home.
Well, it's in here somewhere.
And he's getting nervous, and the papers are dog-eared.
There it is.
Yeah, that's exactly the one I've got.
That's the picture you've got.
That's the one I've got. Yep.
Well, the fight was not over. Pickett used using his strong jaw and neck muscles. He pulled the steer closer and fell over backward. The motion unbalanced the steer, which was still lip-locked to Pickett. The bull flipped over and came crashing down to the ground with a sudden thud. Completely subdued, the steer was frozen in place with all four legs pointing up in the air.
Yeah, and then he went over and kissed the rodeo queen.
I don't think so. Pickett held his, I like this term, held his lip grip continued to triumphantly raise his arms in the air to prove the act was performed hands-free and to demonstrate he had total control over that animal.
There you go.
And stunned by the fall, this animal looked at Pickett eye to eye and desperately wanted to fling Pickett through the air, but he wasn't going anywhere. Well, the crowd that had been silenced in disbelief, they erupted with a roar of applause and cheers. The spellbound audience had come to the rodeo doubting that this tall tale, that a cowboy could throw a steer with his teeth. Yet they just witnessed the great Bill Pickett in action.
Yeah.
Performing his version of steer wrestling. After a cowhand roped the steer, Pickett rose, wiped his mouth on the sleeve of his shirt, thank goodness, dusted off his chaps, and took a bow. His rodeo act of, I like this, lip-locking the steer was called bulldogging. And he was the master.
Was this while, and can you turn that mic, straighten it up a little bit? There you go. No, you don't have to knock it over. Was this while he was performing with the 101 Wild West
We're
show?
going to get to that.
Ah,
yeah.
I see.
So he was born December 5th, 1870, 30 miles northwest of Austin, Texas. His skin was black, but he was of African, Native American, and Caucasian descent. But he never knew slavery as his parents had. His parents, Virginia and Thomas, had 13 children, 5 boys and 8 girls.
13.
Bill was the second oldest, but he loved growing up on a ranch around horses. His schooling only went through the 5th grade, and then his education continued what we'd call cowboy style.
I see. Yeah.
And at the age of 15, Bill worked as a cowhand on an area ranch, and he mastered the skills all cowboys needed, how to rope, how to work cattle, and one thing and another. But he continued to work on Texan ranches during the 1880s and 90s, learning how to break wild horses. Now, he weighed only about 145 pounds.
That's what I thought. He wasn't a very big man.
He stood about 5 feet 7 inches tall.
Yeah.
He appeared kind of slight, but he was actually very muscular and very strong. Quite a bit like me.
Yeah. Great similarity.
Maybe the weight and the height, but that's about it. As a child, Bill had seen bulldogs chase after stubborn cattle that got tangled in the underbrush. Now, bulldogs had been used to work cattle since the 1700s. Their short legs and sleek coat allowed them to easily burrow under the thickets to force animals out into the clearing. Now, Bill noticed that a stubborn cow didn't stand a chance when a bulldog sank its pointed teeth into its lip and used his powerful neck to literally drag the cow back to the herd.
Holy smokes.
That gave Pickett the idea.
How'd you like to be an intruder in that guy's home?
Oh, yeah. But he thought he could do that with an animal in the same way. That's where he got the idea. So he adapted the idea to steer wrestling, and in time he perfected his technique of hitting the sensitive nerve in a steer's lip or his nose. And one of Bill's younger brothers reported that Bill perfected his technique by practicing bulldogging out in the family pasture in the moonlight.
He never really socially dated a lot of girls, did he?
Well, I'm going to get to that too, Zeb. I'll get to that. There's various accounts between 1886 and 1903 of how Bill Pickett came to subdue animals with his teeth. Residents in Rockdale, Texas claim Pickett was helping load longhorn cattle onto a stock car when a stubborn steer escaped. Bill's patience was tried, so he chased after it. He jumped onto the steer's back. He twisted his horns and bit firmly into the steer's upper lip, bringing the runaway to a screeching halt. Others claim the event happened in Taylor or Austin, Texas. Another account says that Pickett passed a cattle company's branding pen on the way home from school. He offered to help by holding the calf down and bit the animal's lip, which held it securely frozen in place during the branding.
Really?
Another version, a fellow rodeo star recalled Pickett going after a cow that had nearly gored his horse. He claimed Bill was mad with the animal. He threw it down by biting into its lip. Regardless of how or when the new method came, Bill Pickett became the expert. He could do it. So he left his home in Texas in 1886 when he was about 16 years old, traveled to Nashville, Tennessee to join a Wild West show. That's what you referred to.
The 101, yeah.
Yeah. Back in Texas in 1890, 20-year-old Bill married his sweetheart, Maggie, in the Taylor Baptist Church where he served as a deacon. To support his growing family, he and 4 brothers decided to start their own horse-breaking business sometime in the 1890s, and they most likely were the first black entrepreneurs in Taylor, Texas. Bill was vice president, and their successful Pickett Brothers Bronco Busters and Rough Riders Association. That was the name of their company, yeah.
Now, do you have a picture of him and his bride?
I do not. I don't.
I wonder if she must have felt some trepidation when they kissed at the wedding day.
That could have been a make or break deal, don't you think?
Lip lock.
Yeah. So anyway, this partnership advertised, quote, "We ride and break all wild horses with much care, good treatment to all animals, perfect satisfaction guaranteed, catching and taming wild cattle a specialty." So
Really?
that's their business.
Really?
Well, Pickett was an all-around hand, a roper, bronc buster. His additional skill of bulldogging made him sought after. County fairs and rodeos were always looking for tricks and stunts to draw in the crowds, you know. So Pickett became kind of a celebrity throughout the West. In 1903, he bulldogged for captivated audiences in rodeos throughout Texas, Arizona, Wyoming, Oklahoma. And there was a promoter named Dave McClure, and he asked him to join his Booger Red's Wild West Wagon Show.
Wow, say that fast 5 times.
So in 1904, Bill Pickett was the star attraction at America's best-known rodeo, the Cheyenne Frontier Days.
How old a man was he at this time?
By now he's into his 20s.
Oh, only?
Yeah, not very old. But
there we go. 1,000 programs, and he still leaves his cell phone on.
And I turned that off, Zeb. I really did. Okay, here we go. 1904, Bill Pickett was the star attraction at the Cheyenne Frontier Days, the equivalent of today's Super Bowl.
Right.
That was the big one.
Right.
And his performance received national attention. The media, both newspaper and radio, came from all over to cover what they called, quote, the Dusky Demon of Oklahoma.
Dusky Demon of Oklahoma.
But everybody agreed his performance were spectacular.
Wow.
Now, Bill Pickett was considered a professional and thereafter banned from competing in amateur rodeo contests. The Miller's Wild West show offered him the perfect venue to showcase his bulldogging style, and, of course, the audiences ate it up. At rodeos, Bill had to earn prize money, but in the Miller show, he was a paid performer. So he was able to earn some money. But he was promoters advertised him as the wonderful Pickett, throwing wild steer by nose with his teeth. He toured the country visiting cities like Chicago, New York, and he actually went to Canada, South America, Great Britain, Mexico.
And did the same thing?
Yeah, and that was what he did.
Wow.
But he also worked with some pretty famous Western personalities, cowboys turned actors like Tom Mix and Will Rogers, and they actually were his assistants sometimes while he was on the tour. Yeah. Now, Bill Pickett was the most famous black cowboy entertainer in American history. Zach Miller claimed that he was the greatest sweat and dirt cowhand that ever lived, bar none. He was a box office draw who never ceased to give crowd-pleasing performances. He was a headliner who packed the house. Sometimes the attendance topped 65,000 that came to watch him.
No kidding.
Pickett's audience-grabbing technique of subduing a steer was copied by some, but no one ever mastered the feat. Many cowboys found the thought of biting into a steer's snotty upper lip a little bit repulsive.
Yeah, kind of.
I would agree with that.
A tad.
I would agree with that. Yeah. So in 1907, the Miller Brothers, as you mentioned, the 101 Ranch Wild West Show was the first rodeo to be held at Madison Square Garden in New York City. Very first.
Wow.
Now, the audience turnout was kind of disappointing opening night, but it was a night to remember. Tom Mix did a riding demonstration, and then it was Pickett's turn to perform with his favorite horse that he called Spradley. Now, Will Rogers was Pickett's hazer, riding parallel with him into the arena. Pickett always rode on the left and Rogers always on the right, sandwiching the steer between them so Bill could easily jump on. However, once out of the chute, something went terribly wrong.
Uh-oh.
The crazed steer was startled by the noise and commotion of the crowd and broke loose. It took off running at top speed across the entire length of the arena with Pickett and Rogers in pursuit. Before the Cowboys could catch up with it, the steer barreled over the gate into the grandstand.
Oh, this is not good.
Pandemonium ran wild.
I would say.
Terrified fans panicked, screamed, scattered in every direction.
Free popcorn.
Yeah. So, Pickett's horse Spradley vaulted the gate, carrying Pickett as they rode up the stairs after the runaway bull.
Oh, wait a minute. Now, they're in the audience.
Yeah, they're running
or
up the stairs.
Or what was the audience?
Yeah, they're running up the stairs, okay? Right there in the stands, Pickett jumped off his horse onto the steer and bulldogged it on the spot with his lip-locking bite.
On the steps, literally.
Yeah. So Will Rogers caught up, and together with some of the other cowboys, they subdued the steer. They roped it, tied its legs before Bill could let it go. The steer was dragged safely back down into the arena, remarkably without any loss of life from the bystanders. The publicity from this event that first night drew in fans for sellout shows for an extremely successful run at Madison Square Garden.
Holy cow.
Can you just picture that, Zeb?
I can, because I was announcing a rodeo and Bull got up in the stands.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of
And it was interesting to say the least.
Well, he moved with his wife Maggie and their 9 children from Texas to Oklahoma, and over the years Pickett earned a steady income, but it came at a price. By the end of his career, almost every bone in his body had been broken. Mm-hmm. I mean, he, like I say, he did a lot of other stuff, bronc riding, breaking horses stuff. But the Miller Brothers Wild West show continued to travel across the United States and to various countries. Pickett even performed before King George V and Queen Mary of England in London. Now, Bill Pickett became Hollywood's first black movie star. The silent movie called The Bulldogger, starring Pickett in 1921, and the movie poster read, quote, Bill Pickett, world's colored champion in The Bulldogger, death defying defeats of courage and skill, 5 smashing reels of thrills and laughs too. That was his movie. He also starred in one called The Crimson Skull. However,
that must have been an Academy Award winner.
Yeah. Well, Pickett found fame and fortune as a bulldogger, not as a movie star.
I see.
And he only made those 2 movies.
Now, these were silents, weren't they?
Yeah, they would have been.
Silent movies?
Yeah, clear back in 1921.
Yeah.
But Bill eventually retired from the rodeo in the late 1920s. Now, you're not going to be surprised at this, Zeb, but he'd lost several teeth in the process of bulldogging over 5,000.
Imagine that.
Bulldogging over 5,000 steers in his career.
5,000.
Now, this consequently made it difficult to bite into a steer's lip and hold its grip. I mean, you can't do that with your gums, right?
Well, you would know more than me.
No, wait a minute. With no teeth, it would make it, or less teeth, it would make it a little more difficult. Anyway, while Bill was getting horses ready for sale, a freak accident occurred. He was separating the horses in the pen when a sorrel gave him some trouble. Pickett dismounted to rope the horse when another horse stepped on his rope. Well, it flipped Bill 15 feet in the air. He landed near the sorrel, which reared up and in the confusion came down.
Oh, boy.
Kicked Bill in the head with his left hind foot. Pickett stood up, collapsed, and never regained consciousness.
Really?
He died almost 2 weeks after the accident on April 2nd, 1932, at the age of 62.
Wow.
Now, Pickett was good friends with Will Rogers, and here's what Rogers said about him. He said, Bill Pickett never had an enemy. Even the steers wouldn't hurt old Bill.
What happened to his brother, though?
Pickett's brothers?
Yeah, remember they were in business together?
Yeah, I don't know what happened with all that. If they continued the business.
I see.
But there's a poem that was written about him. It said, like many men in the old-time West, on any job he did his best. He left a blank that's hard to fill, for there'll never be another Bill.
I like that.
Yeah, I do too.
I like that.
But Bill Pickett contributed greatly to rodeo entertainment. He embodied the spirit of honest competition. In 1971, Pickett was the first black cowboy to be inducted into Oklahoma City's Rodeo Hall of Fame, where his saddle is on display. In 1987, a bronze statue of Pickett was erected in the Cowtown Coliseum in Fort Worth, Texas. In 1989, he was inducted into the Pro Rodeo Hall of Fame. Now, 10 years later, in 1994, the United States Post Office attempted to honor Bill Pickett in their, quote, Legends of the West 29-cent stamp series. But they accidentally depicted a relative, Ben Pickett, instead of Bill.
No.
However, the corrected image of Bill Pickett was issued in 1994. So,
really?
Yeah.
Now, the stamp that was made, help me, do you have a picture of it?
I do not.
Because the one I'm thinking of, he had a pair of those woolly chaps on.
Oh.
And great big old hat, tipped back a little bit, and I think that's the stamp that I've seen.
It could be,
the
yeah.
Picture,
The picture. But it was said of him, it said, quote, when they turned Bill Pickett out, they broke the mold.
There you go.
What an amazing man, you know. And
now, did he have a family?
Yeah, he had his 9 children. And in later years, the 2 boys passed away for whatever reason, I'm not sure. But his 7 daughters took care of him. They were attentive. They cared for him when he actually was blinded for 9 months at one time.
Wow.
But his wife, Maggie, died after 40 years of marriage.
See, now, this is a story that you and I need to pursue to see if we can't get a hold of one of the siblings to come on the program.
You know, and they've got to be, you know, still alive.
I would think some of them are.
The daughters would still be alive. Well, yeah. Maybe. But some of the daughters' children.
The grandkids would be.
Sure. Yeah. But pretty an amazing man. And again, you know, I think he really epitomized the cowboy. You know, the honest, humble, just did the work that needed to be done and was one of the best ranch hands that there ever was.
That's one of the things that I think we need to follow up on. We had this idea about maybe last year sometime of trying to get a hold of relatives to solidify and verify a lot of the stories. Well, in this case, I don't think it'd be that hard to try to find if there's a grandson or a granddaughter or someone that would want to come on the air.
That's what I was going to say. If we can get him on here to have a little interview or something, that would be wonderful.
That would be fun.
So I'll do some checking. I'm not quite sure where to look, or if any of the listeners out there have any ideas on how to contact some of these people, that would be wonderful.
Or for that matter, any of the stories that we've had on this Dr. History segment, if people know maybe a family member or whatever that we could contact regarding the story, that would be really interesting.
It would be wonderful. So,
you know, you talked about this with Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid.
Right. I got his great nephew's book that he wrote about it.
Yeah. And you met with him over at Bear River, I believe.
No, I was down at St. George.
That's it.
And I ran into a man who knew Butch Cassidy.
Yeah.
But over in Montpelier, Idaho, is where that bank is that Butch Cassidy robbed.
I see.
And it's been turned into a Butch Cassidy museum.
Oh.
And that's where I was able to find this book.
I see.
About Butch Cassidy.
That was a good story. We got to do that, though, as a follow-up.
That would be a good project. I'll see what I can find out.
It's good to see you again.
Good to be seen, and good to have you back in the country.
It's good to be back. However, the warmer climes were very nice.
Oh, I agree. I was in St. George for a week.
Yes.
5 days of sunshine was not too bad.
There you go. Dr. History, every Tuesday right here at 10:06 on Zeb at the Ranch. Next week, I'm sure you've got it already pre-planned as to what you're going to do.
But I don't want to spoil it.
Oh, I can imagine. In other words, that's the key phrase of I haven't got a clue.
That's it.
All right. Thanks, Ken. Appreciate it. We're going to take a little break right now and send it back over to Sean and the staff at the studio. And then we're coming back with the Idaho Legislative Update, and today featuring Speaker of the House Scott Bedke, so don't go away.
And now, back to Zeb at the Ranch on AM 1230 KBAR. To reach Zeb, call 436-2244 or toll free 1-866-927-4587. And now, here is Zeb Bell.
Thank you very much, and right now we're going to get right into it, the Idaho Legislative Update, and from the legislative session in Boise, brought to you by Handy Truck Lines, a very, very dependable, efficient, safe, and dependable service for you for all the goods and services throughout the western United States. Thank you very much, Handy Truck Lines. With us on the program this morning is a dear friend and the Speaker of the House, Representative Scott Bedke. Scott, good morning, sir. How are you?
Well, I'm doing well. Welcome back to Idaho, Zeb.
I got to tell you, Scott, Arizona was beautiful with the warm temperatures, but I did miss all the goings-on, if you will, up here in the state of Idaho, which leads me to my first question. Where are we right now with the legislative session as far as is there a closure on the horizon, or what issues still have to be taken care of?
Well, there's several issues. All of the issues just kind of grow and crescendo until March, and of course we're in the first week of March now, and so things will start coming together now. That would include tax relief for Idaho citizens. That would include an investment in Idaho infrastructure. I think there's many legislators that want to take advantage of the favorable interest rates and do some long-awaited bridge repair and road construction, that type of thing. We talked about a surplus all these on these months leading up to the session. We're trying to we will be sending money back to Idaho citizens. If that's where the money came from, that's where we'll send it back to, and we're working on those ideas. Obviously, this is all under the umbrella or under the shadow of what they're doing nationally with the CARES 3 Act and that stimulus, and so we're and we don't have any guidelines on how that's going to work at this point, and but we're pretty adamant that the legislature needs to be in the middle of that appropriation process and not just leave that up to just to leave and let that happen without outside of the legislative process. Obviously, our congressman has floated an idea on breaching dams, and we probably should talk a little bit about that. Anyway, so there's plenty of things. There's plenty of things going on here at the legislature. The month of March is always our busiest month.
Let me jump in here and start this off. And Sean, over at the station, I've got a little bit more feedback, if you could curtail that just a little bit. I was in Arizona, and I had 2 or 3 people come up to me one morning and say, did you hear about what your congressman from Idaho has proposed as far as breaching 4 dams? And I absolutely am adamantly against this. I think it's going to be the straw that could break the financial back of a lot of farmers and agriculturalists if that occurs. What are your thoughts, Scott?
Well, mine are all those thoughts and more. I don't know if you. I wrote an op-ed that that concentrated on 5 areas of concerns that I have, and of course, imagine this: the Boise paper didn't run it, but our paper in our area did, and many of the other newspapers around the state did, and it's been online and whatnot. But I have 5 areas of concern. Number one, the whole process. It looks like everybody was consulted except for the Idaho stakeholders, and that everybody signed off on the idea except for the Idaho stakeholders. And so what about? So we can get into that, but we're feeling a little left out of the process, to put it mildly. I think another area that everybody needs to be concerned about is how do we replace that hydroelectric power? That is the cheapest, most efficient way to have it. That's the original green power right there, and we're willing to walk away from that. The willingness to walk away from that, just kind of boggles my mind. I'm sure that down in Texas here a couple of weeks ago, they would have loved to have had firm powers and firm power. The reliance on renewables, particularly wind and solar. The wind doesn't work good in ice storms, and solar doesn't work when the sun doesn't shine. And so that is all. It can augment the firm power, but firm power comes from hydro, it comes from coal fire, it comes from natural gas, and it comes from nuclear, frankly. And those, so all around the country, that's how utilities firm up the power that comes from the wind and solar. And so this walking away from a big chunk of firm power seems to be short-sighted. There was zero talk in this whole thing. If we're worried about salmon, then we ought to be worried about the predators that are eating the salmon. There's various varieties of ocean-going fish, including steelhead, but of salmon and steelhead. But if you have harbor seals where there have never been harbor seals before, you have this California sea lions that are hard on the return populations at different types of the year. There are numerous predators on the smolts as they do their out migration. Yet there's zero mention of that. Also, the grain, transporting the grain. Half of Idaho's wheat crop goes through the port of Lewiston right now on its way to the Pacific, shore markets, and 10% of the nation's wheat goes through the port of Lewiston. It is the most efficient way to move heavy loads, and the fact that and everything that replaces that is more expensive and has to be subsidized by taxpayers. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me as well. And then, and finally, maybe the most important thing is that under the existing biological opinion, so under the Endangered Species Act, then we have these court-approved biological opinions, which basically govern the way the river is managed, or the river system is managed. And as you recall, it's been 15 years or so ago, the state of Idaho committed to sending fish flesh water down to meet some standards at the Lower Granite Dam. Mm-hmm. And so we send out 427,000 acre-feet a year to shape the flows to make it better for the fish going and coming. There's unallocated space in Palisades and other storage systems in the snake that also go to augment the salmon runs. And if now they're taking at Lower Granite, and we did all this to meet some standard of Lower Granite. Now Lower Granite's gone. We want, that water should stay in Idaho. We got plenty of things that we can use it for. And anyway, so those 5 areas, we can talk about each one in more depth, but that is that's the high points of the opinion piece that I put out here 10 days ago.
Scott, we have a caller with a question and limited time, so I want to get the caller on quickly, and then I have a question for you. Caller, quickly, you're on the air.
Yes, sir. I've called Simpson's office 3 times, 3 weeks, ask for an answer how we're going to get those commodities down the river, how the Port of Lewiston's going to get all of that commodities down that river. And the electricity we're losing, it goes to Portland and Seattle. So what are they going to do? And I have heard crickets. I wish somebody could rattle his chain and make him answer that question.
All right. Well, let me.
The answer to the question is that is the obvious one. It's going to fundamentally change all of the things that you just touched on, caller. I mean, it's going to. And we can say, well, that's not going to affect us here in Idaho. That is not true. Many of our municipalities, all of our co-ops, so think United Electric, think Southside Electric, think of the power systems that are in each of the communities. That's all BPA power, and you just gave away 4,000 megawatts of it to some and he says, well, we're going to rely on battery storage systems. Well, that's not technology that you can take off the shelf and scale up to commercial size, just commercial scale. They talk about small modular nuclear reactors. Well, what do you think the chances of Oregon siting nuclear reactors along the Columbia River are, or Washington, for that matter? Kate Brown and Jay Inslee need to step up. They immediately endorsed the plan, but they're not going to. So where do they want all of this? Is Idaho the off-site mitigation yet again for Oregon and Washington problems? As you say, there are crickets there. There would be, they would placate all of these interests with money. This is another thing. It's $33.5 billion. Hey, you got a problem? Here's $100 million. Go solve it. You got a problem? Here's $100 million. And you do that, and so they did it enough times that it adds up to $33 billion. I think the more scary thing, caller, is the fact that this is real and that it can be passed through the reconciliation process back in Washington, D.C., and that's another issue we can talk about. So they could do it without one Republican vote back in Washington. It'll fly through the House, and the Senate was going to be our backstop, and usually is our backstop because they have to have 60 votes to move anything. But if they do it with the reconciliation process that they did the CARES 2 Act with, and that they're doing the CARES 3 Act with, of course, it's what President Trump used to get the tax cuts through back when he was there. So it is a way to get around the cloture vote in the United States Senate, and I think this is way more real than anybody wants to give it credit for.
Scott, let me throw this into the fray this morning that I think it needs to be elaborated on. I used to be in the grain business, and I know a little bit about what I'm talking about. When you're talking about right now the Biden administration with severe increases in fossil fuel usage as far as costs are concerned, and to eliminate the river rafting of the grain products to the coast and the Tri-Cities, and you're talking about much more traffic on the roadways and also rail, it's going to be exorbitantly higher in price, and it all is going to fall back on less money to the farming and agricultural communities. Would you agree or disagree?
I absolutely agree. And, so we shouldn't even be having this conversation until, see, but here's the danger of it. If we engage to try to make it better, then that gets spun into support, and so don't misunderstand what I'm saying here. But why would we ever let go of the branch that we have a firm hold on to grab for another branch? And what I mean is the railroad, if that's what they're going to rely on, the railroad doesn't exist. It needs to exist. If we're going to walk away from the hydropower, there needs to be existing generation capacity and transmission capacity in the new plan. If we're going to, what about a Hell's Canyon complex? You take those 4 dams out, you move upriver, then you're Hell's Canyon. Then it is Idaho Power, and in addition to all the BPA co-ops that we use extensively in the state of Idaho. There are a lot of questions to be asked here, and there's precious few answers right at the moment. There's at least answers that I can that make me feel more comfortable.
Absolutely.
And you're exactly right. This will add cost. Do you think your power rates are going to go up or down after this? Do you think your wheat price back to farmers is going to go up or down because of this? Etc.
Absolutely.
Anyway.
We have another caller with a question quickly, and I'm short on time. Caller, go ahead, please.
Yes, sir. You're going to add extra money to your rainy day fund this year.
I believe that
because all I see is with the Biden administration, environmentalists, everything going downhill. That's my question. Thanks.
Well, that's always the answer is yes, we will, because years ago when we passed laws that said whenever we collect more money than we need for the budget, part of that goes into a rainy day fund. And so as a consequence, we have, we're prepared for a rainy day fund. States that don't have rainy day funds, of course, they get into trouble, and then they raise taxes. We have never done that, and nor do we want to start. But because of the cyclical nature of our economies, that you put a little money away when the times are good, so you don't have, so you can use that when times turn down, much like you would do in your own budget. But you can't. But if you do too much of that, then of course, where is that? If it is surplus or money, if it's taxpayer money, should that sit in a savings account at the state, or should it be back in your pocket? And that is always the push-pull of that conversation of where should that money sit while we're waiting for the rain to start. But yeah, we will put some in, and so that we're well positioned. During the Great Recession back in 2008, 9, 10, 11, back in those times, we used our rainy day fund so that the essential services of government were not shut down. We didn't close schools, we didn't close our court systems, we didn't close our prisons, etc. We relied heavily on the rainy day funds at that point, and we've been building them back since we nearly depleted them back in that era.
Thank you, caller, for your question. And, Scott, I'm down to about the last 4 to 5 minutes on this segment, and then we're going to have to run. But I want to revert back to this problem with the dam breaching possibility and Congressman Mike Simpson. Why all of a sudden did this come like a left hook out of the blue from Congressman Mike Simpson? Had you any inkling that he was going to side with the breaching of the dams? What was the conversation, if any, about this?
Well, I was not consulted personally, and you know that I've been in the middle of water issues in Idaho for a bunch of years, and I was not consulted. So let's get that established. So it did come out of the blue. There was a couple of years ago there was talk that said we're sending all this water out of the state, and it's not, we're not seeing and it's not helping the salmon. And so maybe we need to rethink that. Now, there was that head fake a couple of years ago, but obviously it was more than that, and people went to work trying to shore up, like I say, the interest in Washington seemed to be more consulted than the interest in Idaho, ditto Oregon, and it did come out of well, as you say, a left hook out of right field. So anyway, yeah, it took us by surprise. And because it seems to be so far-fetched and so antithetical to our custom, our culture, the things that our parents and our grandparents have invested in. I mean, this has the ability to fundamentally change a lot of the things that we've come to depend on here.
Absolutely. One of the issues that you've talked about, well, I'm going to go through all of them, the stakeholders, the hydro replacements, salmon and their predators, etc. I don't have time to get into all of them this morning, but where is this as far as being a done deal with Simpson? He and I have not got along very well the last couple of years. What about this? How can I help combat this or fight this on my radio program?
Well, I think we need to raise the awareness. You can go onto his website and you can watch his video or his explaining a little bit of the background. There is a lot more detail on this. That literally there are billions of dollars at stake here, and the website explains who gets what or who would get what. And so you can start there. There's just a lot of unanswered questions here, and the what ifs. I compare. Senator Crapo probably set the standard when he did the Hawaii Initiative. He started at the grassroots people in Hawaii County, and he put together a consensus idea that solved the conflict between the federal government and the local people there, and put together the Hawaii Initiative that, while it was not perfect, it solved the problem. you go to Senator Risch and look at the roadless rule that he was able to do,
right,
and how he went straight with the stakeholders, the local stakeholders, the ones that voted for him, anyway, and worked the problem that way instead of from the other direction. And that's I think is, I feel a sense of betrayal, frankly.
Yeah, absolutely. Scott, I am out of time. You can look at your wristwatch and you're going to say, how's Zeb going to wrap this program up when he's got a weather forecast and everything else? God bless you for coming on the program this morning. We'll talk much more about this. Speaker of the House, Scott Bedke, on Idaho Legislative Update. Thank you, Scott, and come back soon, please.
Thank you, Zeb, and it's good to have you back.
All right, sir. Thank you very much. The Idaho Legislative Update brought to you by Handy Truck Lines at 400 West, 100 South of Paul. Absolutely the fifth generation of management of all the transportation needs for the Northwest. Services to Idaho and the surrounding states. They are the best at what they do, as they have had over 90 years in operation and service to the industry around the Northwest. Thank you, Handy Truck Lines. Right now, I want to quickly say, and boy, have I got to be quick, our dear friends at Edith's Cafe at 144 East Highway 81 in Burley. Great place to eat. They're open Tuesday through Saturday, 11 to 8, Fridays and Saturdays, 11 to 9, and they also do catering. They've got a menu that'll absolutely knock your boots off. Delicious. Take your friends, take your neighbors, take your family, and enjoy great eating at Edith's Cafe, 144 East Highway 81 in Burley. And don't forget, for takeout orders, give them a call at 878-2248. Don't forget Edith's Cafe. Right now, quickly, before I run out of time, it's time for the weather forecast, brought to you by Scarrows Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome. And, of course, Don Scarrow and the crew are waiting for your call at 324-7657, or you can go to their website, scarrowsmeats.com. Right now, here's Gina with the weather forecast.
Another beautiful day and temperatures warming up. Here is a look at your weather forecast. We are expecting sunny skies for today. Slight breeze out of the east at about 8 miles an hour with a high of 51. Tonight, mostly clear with a low of 24. Tomorrow, sunshine and 50 by Thursday. Sunny skies, winds out of the north-northeast at about 5 miles an hour, looking at a high of 54 by Friday, 58, maybe 60 by Saturday. That's look at your weather for Zeb at the Ranch.
Thank you, Gina, and brought to everybody by Scarrows Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome. That telephone number again, 324-7657. All the delicious meats, the sausages, the bratwurst, the bacons, everything from Scarrows Meats. They are changing the way we eat, one delicious bite at a time. Real fast, our major sponsor. I feel like I'm in a race right now. Don't forget our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations serving you with the best in tires, all the tread designs, all the sizes for all the vehicles. And they've got the knowledge to make sure the right tires are on your vehicle, along with the best in brake service with highly trained brake technicians. Front end alignment, shocks and struts and batteries. They know, but above all, they provide the best in service to you and your safe driving. Stop in and see James in Buell, Dan on Poline in Twin Falls, Lane and Rupert, Mike and Jerome, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, and the Twist family over in Paul, and my dear buddy Trent on Overland in Burley. All of them great service to you for your safe driving with the best of tires from your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Woo! Gotta run. The Bible verse for today, real quick, is from Proverbs 21, verse 18. The wicked will finally lose. The righteous will finally win. We'll see you tomorrow morning at 8:06. Zeb at the Ranch. Have a good day.